All right, I'll tell you what. We're doing it. You talked me into it. I'm putting some salt licorice on the fact that we will see the scene in which Layla's father dies.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, man. All right. Put my candy where my mouth is. Hail, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Moon Knight. Season 1, Episode 5, Asylum. We open with flashbacks to Mark's childhood. A cave, his mom blaming him. We find more about this later. And then Mark is back in the asylum, Putnam Medical Facility in Chicago, having a therapy session with Dr. Harrow. We end our penultimate episode with Steven sacrificing himself, leaping off the boat, turning to sand, balancing the scales, and Mark immediately finds himself in the field of reeds. And that's where we leave off, heading into what is probably theoretically the final episode, the series finale. Paul?
Yes?
What did you think of episode 5?
I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's funny. Just going by this episode, we're only going to get Mark from here on out. So my interest in seeing what the and it's clear this establishes it. It states it outright that he is the primary personality.
Oh, yeah.
What would that be like? And so we're going to see, I guess, this next episode.
I would say it's highly likely Steven is not gone, but I hear you.
What?
Well, on your concerns, because you were talking in our last recap that it seemed to be very Steven-centric, and one of our veteran commenters, Jerome,
hello, Jerome,
agreed with you on that. He said he likes the show, but for a show called Moon Knight, it doesn't seem to have a lot of Moon Knight in it. That was kind of his thought.
Yeah, I don't think he's alone in that.
Right.
Someone else was talking to me about how, you don't really see Moon Knight until the end of the first episode.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of why I really didn't get into, well, not the only reason. One of the reasons I didn't get into the show Gotham was because it was like, let's take one of the most popular characters in modern fiction. Then we're going to do a show about everything but him. Like, oh, okay. All right. Anyway, so yeah.
What? No, it was all about Commissioner Gordon. I mean,
that's right. What am I saying?
Come on. Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon was all in there. It's true. I've also had some concerns for some other commenters, and I think I second these concerns that the finale...
You second the emotions.
I second that emotion. That, as I say, it's possibly, as far as we know, the series finale. It has a lot of heavy lifting to do to cram a satisfactory ending into the third act, eventually, of our story. 45 minutes, do your third act, and they've got a lot of outstanding plot lines. How do you wrap that up and not feel really rushed?
I feel
it's possible.
It's interesting. It sounds like you're more convinced that it's a series finale than a season finale than I would have expected.
Okay. Well, just because they haven't announced anything like that.
They don't typically do that, though. They typically wait until the end of the season before they even tell you whether or not there's going to be another one.
That's true. Is it possible there's a season 2? Yes, and if so, then so be it. And they do have plenty of story to tell. I'll just say that. Well, that would probably be a better scenario. Yeah.
If you look at the situation and say, okay, is Harold stopped and Amit not resurrected? They can do that. You don't need more than an episode for that. If you also want to see, Mark reunited with, Layla,
and the third personality that they have strongly hinted at but not shown us.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching what was it, Nerdist? They did a video about all the clues or indications of Lockley. And it's like, it's kind of thin. I mean, it's that we know that there's someone,
right,
and it seems like they're pointing towards someone, but they don't have to show anyone.
They don't have to show. I would say your two, in the thin evidence, the two biggest pieces of evidence to me would be, one, the fact when there's that bloody killing that goes on the rooftop, and both Steven and Mark are like,
yes.
I didn't do it.
Yes, right.
So that's one. And then this I'm in my version of this plane, and there's a sarcophagus, and I open it, and there's Steven, and there's another sarcophagus, only one.
Yes.
And I don't open it. Like, you're like, that sounds like it's another person. So those are the two reasons why I feel like
right. But that could be anything.
You're right.
It could be anything. And also, here's a way they could do it. He defeats Harrow, and Amit is not raised, and he embraces with Layla, and you get credits, and then the post scene is that that tomb again. Then they cut. And so then you're like, oh, are you going to give us more? And they never do. And one thing that struck me that I thought of before we even began is that everything happens in this, either it's a flashback or the, what I will call the construct that Mark is doing to sort of keep him from seeing the truth of what occurred. So nothing outside this plane. It's all occurring here, basically. We don't see the real Layla. We don't see the real Harrow. We're just seeing these flashbacks and this, plane that's equivalent to Black Panther's plane.
Right, which they reference here. So we have Taweretz is our guide through this thing.
Yes.
Our hippo goddess.
Our lovely hippo.
I wasn't a huge fan of her demeanor. I felt she was a little. I get that they made a choice. Look, we're gonna make this character kind of jokey, a little casual. It's in Mark's mind, so maybe he's trying to create like a comforting maternal figure. We know that his real mom, Lee. We'll talk about that in a second, but
yeah.
So perhaps that's just the choice I made. I think I personally probably wouldn't have made this choice. I feel like it undercuts the gravity of the situation and maybe a little too much personally. But anyway, I get it. She's a big cartoon hippo. I got it. Okay. Let's just talk about the flashbacks then, because what basically Taweretz says, hey, I've got these scales. I've taken your hearts and you're weighing them against the feather, Egyptian afterlife style, and oops, they're out of balance. And if they continue to be out of balance, well, you're going to join the sands here in the Duat. So you better figure it out. And the way you figure it out is probably to, have a meeting of the minds, you two. So they do these flashbacks. And, so at first I thought they were going in the direction of, oh, I get it. Mark created Steven to deal with the guilt over his brother's death. But nope. Nope. They went with the child abuse. It's like, well, that would do it.
Yeah, I think that's more in keeping with, other stories about, multiple personalities, like Sybil.
Right.
She was being abused by her mother quite horrifically.
And then that scene of little kid Mark transforming into Steven as his mom comes in with a belt. Like, whoo,
yes. Yeah.
That was tough to watch. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
They got pretty dark in this thing. Plus, there's a couple other devastating moments. The one where Steven realizes he's imaginary. That's a pretty devastating one where he's like, what? Yes. I thought I was, oh my God, you created me. Like, whoa. Just the realization of that, you see it wash over him like, I'm nothing. Like, oh man. Also the moment that he has to acknowledge that his mom is dead.
Yes.
That is a pretty huge one too. They're holding the phone and he's like, she's dead. Like, oh, he's been talking to nothing all this time. The Later's Gators, we see the reference to that back in happier times.
Yes,
that was his send off with his mom.
Yes.
So that's all just this is very heart-rending stuff. So kudos to that for sure.
Do you feel that the father is implicated in the abuse that Mark received?
I gotta say he's at least partially responsible, right? I mean, the first thought that comes to mind is, why didn't you intervene? But I thought it was handled believably. It feels like that's a real relationship potentially where, whatever, somebody's allowing the abuse to happen, and they, for whatever reason, can't stop it. And I think that happens all across the world, probably on a daily basis. And so this father is trapped in that scenario. He's trying to be oh look, let's have our party together, just you and me. He seems to be trying to keep everything together, but by just ignoring the fact that there's this terrible thing happening in his house. So yeah, I hold him at least partially responsible for it. That's interesting too, because they didn't just make them both monsters, but in his own way, he's allowing his son to be abused. So, ouch.
So I thought it was interesting that they did not make the choice to, although I guess they still could, but that apparently in the comics that Khonshu had a connection with him as a young man, or at least, maybe when he was young. And also, they decided to excise the Nazis, the Nazi that's supposed to be involved in it, which makes it certainly takes that aspect away from the Judaism of his character, and it makes me wonder exactly why I guess it's giving him something, but in terms of, except for sitting Shiva, it's hard, and him wearing a yarmulke, I'm not really seeing much about the character that necessitated him being Jewish.
I'll say this, and I was going to bring this up a little later, but this is a good little segue into that. I'm wondering if maybe they brought up the Jewish angle just to show that he is religious in some way. Because, we have this moment in the desert when, we see the flashback to the moment when Layla's dad was killed off, and Mark was mortally wounded, essentially. And he's crawling through the desert to this tomb, or this temple. He crawls into the temple. He crawls to the altar.
Yes.
And then decides to shoot himself on the altar. And to me, that, he could have shot himself. If it's like to avoid, say, the physical pain that he's enduring, he could have just killed himself back in the desert.
True.
It's interesting that he takes himself to an altar and then decides to shoot himself. I feel like that's some kind of act of atonement or punishment or something. What's the motivation for him to get all the way to this altar and then kill himself on it? I felt like there was maybe a religious tie-in there, perhaps. Anyway.
Maybe he doesn't want to, die out in the sun. He's just like, I got to find the exact spot to kill. Not here's not quite right.
Not quite. This is uncomfortable. The sand is so gritty.
Yeah, let me get up on the, so.
I mean, I guess here's the way you could explain it away, but it would be bad storytelling because I don't explain it. So that would be, if this is the answer, it's a weak one. So, but theoretically, I could imagine in a real world scenario, oh my God, I'm dying. Wait, there's the building nearby. Maybe there's someone there to help me. Crawl, 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 crawl. Oh, it's empty. Oh, hell, I'll just, But I don't, that's a huge, you're filling in the gaps there quite a bit. So anyway.
Are you suspecting that one of the things we'll see in this final episode is the coin to drop, and that the partner that he's speaking of, Bushman, is really the third altar that he's,
Yeah, I think yes, we're going to see the third altar, and it's possible that the third altar is Bushman. I mean, I suppose that is in the realm of, we've been calling it Jake Lockley just because in the comics it's Jake Lockley, but the third personality, as far as we know from this show, seems to be pretty violent. So maybe Mark created this commanding officer persona to help him be a ruthless mercenary. I'm getting orders from my CO, so I guess I have to do it. Maybe that's that's the rationale for creating this personality. Either that, or I think the third personality manifested in order to save Mark from Bushman. But the fact that we haven't met Bushman at all, and it's very revealing that they just don't even show him. They just mention him. Yep, he was here. He said to kill all these people. We didn't show it. We just see dead people lying around. And, that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that, the part of the reason why this is 6 episodes and not 8 or 10 is that they're like, we can just refer to that scene. We'll save some money by not having to have, a scene where people have to get shot and killed.
I mean, I mentioned it last time. I just feel like that's such a pivotal character and scene that you can't just refer to that. I think you've got to. I think we're going to go back to it, and I think we're going to learn something more about it. Now, what that is, I don't know, but it's also really because Steven is asking questions about it, and Mark's just kind of like, well, obviously, it didn't work out, or something. Like, what? Wait, what? Yeah, obviously, it didn't work out, but like, in what way? And how are you still alive? And what is Bushman one of the dead people? Did you kill him, or did he drive off? Anyway, so yeah. I feel like it's much more likely that there is this other personality.
Yeah, see, that's okay. So that's in your head as part of this that needs to be resolved. And for me, it doesn't need to be resolved.
You're like, yeah, it's fine. All right, fair enough. Yeah, if you out there in comment land, give your opinion. Are we going to meet another personality of Mark's, or is it just, they've done a good job at resolving between the two. Maybe that's all they needed to do, and they move on. So let us know.
Or if you think that we're going to be seeing that execution scene.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we are, frankly. If I had to put money on it, which I don't.
Want to put some candy on it?
I don't. But yeah, I think that's an interesting little.
I can see that you really don't have faith in your beliefs.
Yeah. Oh. All right. I'll tell you what. We're doing it. You talked me into it. I'm putting some salt licorice on the fact that we will see the scene in which Layla's father dies.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Oh man. All right. Put my candy where my mouth is. So we did get Chicago, kind of.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
It's tough to tell where they are.
It didn't really feel like Chicago, but
I know. I heard them say Milwaukee Avenue at one point, although that goes way out into the burbs as well, so that's not that helpful. But the buildings look like they were in downtown Chicago.
Chicago-ish, yeah.
I was just a bit confused because they appear to live in the city, and yet the kids walk to apparently a nearby rural cave. That's like, you're like, it seemed like the boys hopped a train and went to Elgin is what ended up happening. Which, maybe the mom is secretly feeling guilty, thinking, why did I let 2 unattended kids take a train all the way to Elgin? I don't know. Anyway, there's a cave nearby, apparently. We learned that the reason Mark was out in the desert is that he got kicked out of the army. He said, I had a fugue state. So he basically switched to Steven at an inopportune moment, and they're like, you're out. And so then he took to being a mercenary for potentially an imaginary CO. It is interesting, like, if you're going to go with the theory that Bushman is another imaginary third person, it is somewhat coincidental that his CO, did he also get fired? Because why would the CO now be doing mercenary gigs? It sounds like he would have, Like, if Mark was working for his CO in the army and then Mark gets kicked out, why is his CO still giving him mercenary gigs on the side? It doesn't quite make sense. Anyway, but whatever. They're not going to cover it at all, and I'm going to be like, you can't do that.
And
you're going to be
yes,
laughing.
They can.
I'm going to be eating licorice.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
And I'll be shaking my fist at you the whole time. Damn this licorice. It does appear You talked about Amit, being kept at bay. It seems like Amit is actually available now. It's out because on the boat.
I thought that was kind of strange, actually. I mean, you could assume that one of the things we'll see in this next episode is whatever, ceremony that, Harrow does in order to resurrect the Amit, and then Amit then beginning to, all over the world start taking the souls of people, and that's why that happened. So, okay, that's fine, but that's something that, I would think you would need to show. So I can definitely see that. We're seeing that in that episode as well. And then Layla working to get,
rescue Khonshu.
Yeah, rescue Khonshu.
Yeah, we thought that might happen. It seems like they mentioned it here because Steven convinces Taweret to help them out in the real world. And assuming this is not all in his head, which I'm making that assumption, that Taweret is going to basically let them know, hey, Layla, you should go rescue Khonshu, and that'll help Mark come back to life. We do see trailer footage of Moon Knight, or somebody dressed as Moon Knight, apparently clashing with another, it looks like cloaked figure atop a pyramid. So perhaps Harrow in his avatar suit? Since Amit is theoretically back, if all these souls are crashing to the Duat, maybe she gives Harrow his own fancy suit, and so you've got Moon Knight versus Death Knight or something, I don't know. And the pyramid that they're on is probably the Great Pyramid where the gods hold court, so there could be another trial. Commenter Thomas mentioned this idea somewhat. I could tell he was less than enthused at the idea of going back for another trial. But hopefully if we get a trial part 2, the gods will be slightly less stupid than they were before. Look, we see no evidence of Amit's presence. I don't know. We find in favor of the defendant. Meanwhile, souls dying left and right.
It's like, we have to get a continuance on this. Unfortunately, the plaintiff has not done due diligence, and
that's true. We're gonna need more exhibits. If you could,
yeah.
I mean, I still think, assuming we get this third personality and I get to avoid eating candy, I feel like the
now
three
you
of
care.
them will come to some kind of acceptance, is my guess, but I don't know. Because I
So
still
you have
think
his characters,
Steven
or are
is
you
alive.
saying Steven, Mark, and Layla? Who are these three?
Maybe the three personalities. It is interesting.
I see.
So it's odd that once Steven dies, we'll say dies, once his personality dissipates, that Mark's scales balance.
Right, yes.
That's kind of a weird, in other words, like it's saying almost like, well, Steven was the problem. It's like,
Yes,
oh, really?
yes.
Was he? Like Steven was this coping mechanism. Hey, when my mom was beating me, I created a world where she was great and you didn't have to suffer. And then I had this part of me that didn't have to suffer. And so that's this, they kind of agree that, oh, wow, I see why you did what you did, and da-da-da-da. And then for him to then disappear, and it's like, oh, now I'm fine. Seems a little weird, right? I mean,
to me, though, I look at it sort of as, if you look at the whole idea of balancing scales for who you are, this whole thing of, oh, yeah, I'm good. This person did all the bad stuff. Let me in. It's like, wait a minute, what? Hold on a second. Let me get my, diagram out here so I can determine exactly who should get through. It's like, oh no, he got rid of the other person and now he's just one person. That makes, has a kind of sense to it. I mean, yes, we're both atheists, so yeah, it makes it harder for us to accept what's going on. Like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand. I love the moment when Mark says, all right, let's just kill the hippo and steal the boat.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you're thinking. That's what a moral person would do.
That explains why you were in favor of that, since you were so unhappy with
That's right. With the
Taweret. You're like, killer. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's like then he tries to back it up. I think he's like, well, I didn't mean maybe we could tie her up. That was great.
Yeah, I think you're gonna come away thinking better of this series than either Daredevil or Jessica, because they consider killing characters you found annoying. If somebody had only suggested killing Foggy,
Foggy.
Yeah.
I wish it was Fozzie. Put Fozzie Bear in there as like the backup for Daredevil. I'd be all on board, baby.
Waka waka waka.
Waka waka. Much better than Foggy's. Ugh. Anyway, don't get me started on Daredevil Jar Jar. So very powerful episode.
Sure.
I think they did cover the trauma that Mark had to endure in an intelligent and emotionally satisfying way. So a lot of kudos to the episode. I feel better if this was episode 5 out of 8 or something. I just wonder if one episode, go get them anyway. But until we see it, I give them credit till they screw up. So go get them. Go get them. Season finale, series finale.
Yeah, you got a lot on, at stake. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. So the salt licorice bag, I've got it. It's waiting, unopened. Hopefully it will stay unopened.
I hope it hasn't spoiled.
Good point. Even worse. It's been around for like a year. Yeah. It's got dust on it. It's like an artifact. Let me just reveal this.
That's right. Like you probably would instead, like, oh, where's that guy to cut me open and pull out my innards? I'd rather have that happen.
Exactly. Bring on the undead priest. So all right, there we go. That's what we're hoping for. Everybody out there, cross your fingers that we're going to get the scene where Layla's dad dies. So here we go. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
Sure, man.
And thank you all out there. And we'll be back talking about the potentially series finale of Moon Knight next time. Bye, everybody.